The signs of infidelity were visible almost immediately, but for some reason, I let it all pass my eyes, and eventually, it ended badly for me. My wife had the conscience to cheat on me, and I just didn't leave. My name is Colin Sampson, and I'm a licensed professional engineer. After earning my master's degree, I continued my education, passed the required exams, and fulfilled all other criteria to receive my state license. My field of expertise is in water resources, which may sound impressive, but it mainly involves water supply and sanitation projects. Essentially, I deliver clean water to people and manage waste removal. I graduated at the top of my class, and my professor in logic and statistics became a major influence on me. Though we often disagreed, I managed to outsmart him on his favorite orientation problem, and after that, he became my mentor and personal tutor. With his guidance, I cleared up any academic confusion and graduated summa cum laude with both my bachelor's and master's degrees. My wife of 4 years is Sabrina. We met when she was an intern at a print shop. The copy machine she worked on was broken, and I was there making copies of some blueprints. We bumped into each other a few days in a row, and I was instantly drawn to her radiant smile and legs. Things escalated quickly, and soon we were having the exclusive dating talk. My father left when I was young, and my mother remarried a few years later. I didn't find out until my teenage years that my father's infidelity had caused the breakup. My stepfather wasn't much of a father figure, and I still have unresolved feelings of anger towards my biological dad. He stopped visiting not long after he moved out, and growing up with the feeling that I didn't matter to him was tough. It left emotional scars that I carry with me to this day. From the start, I made my stance on fidelity very clear. Sabrina didn't have a similar upbringing. Her parents and both sets of grandparents are still alive and happily married. She couldn't fully relate to my experiences, but she shared my view that fidelity is non-negotiable for her as well. Sabrina is very strong-willed. While she's not entirely inflexible, she can lean toward a my way or the highway mentality. I think we balance each other out well because I'm not afraid to call her out when she focuses too much on herself rather than on our relationship. Maybe it's because she grew up as an only child. Always getting your way as a kid might shape your perspective differently from those of us who had to deal with siblings. Our intimate life has been intense from the very beginning. Once we became exceptional partners, we became very active in bed. Our wedding was a bit extravagant, actually. I felt sorry for Sabrina's mom when it happened. What is it called? A bridesmaid sometimes. Being the only child in a family can be a real challenge for someone. One of our favorite activities is attending musicals at the Performing Arts Theater. We have season tickets, and our typical evening includes dinner beforehand, followed by drinks and dancing, making it a very romantic night out. We go to 8 musicals each year. I was never much of an athlete, but I do enjoy watching college sports. Professional sports don't really interest me. The Olympics are hit or miss. I usually avoid the judged events and prefer those where athletes race against the clock. Sabrina has no interest in sports at all. Sabrina works for the law firm of Simpson and Haggerty, with Simpson being Mrs. Nancy Simpson. She expects her female associates to be prim, proper, and uphold strong moral standards. As a result, Sabrina always makes sure to dress accordingly and usually opts for pantsuits. I don't mind that at all, she thinks, since the men would be ogling her legs otherwise. Sabrina seems to be the standout among the new hires, and she hopes that one day the firm will be called Simpson, Sampson, and Haggerty. One of Sabrina's best friends from high school is getting married, and Sabrina has agreed to be one of the bridesmaids. The bride comes from a wealthy family, and the ceremony will take place in Cancun. Each member of the bridal party has been given round-trip tickets for 2 and a week-long stay at a timeshare. Most of the wedding party is expected to arrive by Thursday, with the rehearsal dinner set for Friday night and the wedding in the late afternoon on Saturday. From what Sabrina has heard, most people plan to stay the full 7 days. However, due to an important trial on Monday, we'll only be staying until Sunday morning. The trial will be held before a jury, but Sabrina is confident that their case is strong enough to get a directed verdict in their favor. At 4 a.m. on Thursday, we locked up and headed to the airport for our early morning flight to DFW. We'll have a 90-minute layover before our connection to Cancun. Sabrina brought her case folder along for the trial on Monday. I thought those folders weren't supposed to leave the office, I commented. They're not, she replied, but I need to make sure I've memorized all the key points in our responses. We've invested a lot of money preparing for this case. Do you think you'll even be able to relax on this trip? I asked. Definitely, she said. I'll manage my time so I can go over the trial materials and still have fun. I'm ready to let my hair down. After a long wait for our luggage, we finally arrived at the resort. After checking in, we went straight to the restaurant. Since it was an all-inclusive trip, we didn't waste any time and took advantage of all the benefits. While Sabrina was in the bathroom, the manager came over to introduce himself and greet all the new guests. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Julio, the manager. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask, he said. I was a little worried that Sabrina had brought court documents with her, so I decided to dispel my fears. Nice to meet you, Julio. My name is Colin. How safe are the premises here? I asked. We have the best security system in the city, sir. There are 30 cameras installed here, and we have been keeping records for 2 years. We protect our guests flawlessly. I can provide you with records of every time your door was opened if you have any doubts. We can review the surveillance footage together. Do you want a printout of the daily work of the hall? He offered. It sounds tempting. Thank you, Julio. It was nice to meet you. I think we'll really like it here, I replied. Sabrina and I found our room and got into bed as quickly as possible. After a short intimacy, I set the alarm and we took a nap. Thursday night was a meet and greet with the bridal party and some early arriving family friends. I barely knew anyone there. I'd met a few of the couples at our wedding, but we had never socialized with them afterward. After dinner, the DJ began taking song requests and the dancing started. Sabrina was wearing a knee-length skirt and a sleeveless blouse, showing off her legs. The venue had 3 separate dance floors. The DJ and bar were positioned against the back wall, with one dance floor to the left, one to the right, and the largest one directly in front of the DJ. From our seats, we couldn't see the floor on the left, but people were watching the dancers from the second floor railing. Sabrina and I danced a few songs, which is about my limit since dancing isn't really my thing. After the first slow dance of the night, we returned to our seats. We hadn't been sitting for a full song before a man came over and asked Sabrina to dance. Can I, honey? Only the fast ones, okay? She danced a few songs with him and then came back for a drink. Soon, another man approached and asked her to dance without looking at me. She accepted. I was chatting with the guy at our table about Friday's golf game, but when I looked around, Sabrina was nowhere to be seen. I went up to the second floor and saw that she was dancing in the left section. That was enough for me, and I headed for the stairs. The fast song ended, and the slow one began. I stopped and watched Sabrina move away from her partner, but when she noticed that I wasn't at our table, she returned to the dance floor. They came closer, swaying together, her partner allowing himself too much. I went up to Sabrina and asked, "What part of no slow dancing don't you understand?" She pushed her partner away, looked at me with wide eyes, and said, "I forgot." "I'm sorry." "Have you forgotten?" "Yes, that's right." "And did you like it, buddy?" I asked, turning to her dancing partner. He was silent, so I focused on Sabrina again. "If you don't return to our room within 10 seconds of me, your lawsuit file will be destroyed." I headed for the elevator. Sabrina quickly ran up to our table, grabbed her things, and when the elevator doors were already closing, she shouted, "Wait! Hold the door." I yelled back, 10 seconds behind me, or I destroy it. "Take the stairs." I let the elevator door shut as I was unlocking the door with my keycard. The stairwell door swung open. Sabrina, out of breath, kept running towards me and caught the door before it closed. "Did you really have to cause a scene, me?" "Cause a scene?" I wasn't the one flashing my butt or showing everything. I lifted her skirt and saw she was wearing a thong. "Since when did you become such a cheap?" "I guess I drank too much." "I'm sorry." "That's crap. Get out of my sight." Sabrina shut the bedroom door, and I slept on the couch. We didn't talk much on Friday morning. After getting dressed, we headed downstairs for breakfast. Less than an hour later, we were back in the room. "I'm joining the golfing group," I said. "What about you?" "I'm going with the shopping group." "Will you be back by 4? We need to help set up." "I will see you later." Maybe we can have a little fun before the rehearsal? Sounds good, babe. I got to the lobby around 8:25 a.m. We had 3 tea times at the resort's course, which was about a 15-minute drive from the timeshare. 11 of us piled into the van sent by the golf course, 7 guys and 2 couples. The 2 couples teed off first since they had arranged the outing at the par 3 14th hole. Play slowed down. Our first group was just leaving the green, and our second group was waiting to tee off. We had at least a 15-minute wait before we could continue. Tom, the guy I was sharing a cart with, decided to call his wife and asked how shopping was going, along with the usual husband and wife chatter. After he hung up, I asked, "Are the ladies enjoying their shopping?" "Oh yeah," he replied. "Shelby can easily max out a credit card. It doesn't matter where we are. She always finds something to buy." He mentioned that one of the women wasn't feeling well, so she sent the shopping bags back with her to have them held at the front desk. "Great," I said. "That means she's turning this into 2 shopping trips." "That's funny," he added. "Her hands are free now. Let's hope the exchange rate works in our favor today." "Yeah, no kidding," I responded. "She's not going to stick to a shopping budget." I picked up my phone and called Sabrina, but it went straight to voicemail. We were waiting on the 18th fairway when my phone buzzed. It was Sabrina. "Hey babe, how's shopping going? We just got back. I saw you called." "Yeah, we were held up on the course, so I thought I'd check in." "I must not have heard it ring. You know how noisy malls can be. Our cab just dropped us off. Will you be back soon?" "I should be back in about an hour. See you soon." As I was sitting in the van, heading back to the resort, my phone buzzed with a text. "Your daily room log is available at the front desk." I picked up the envelope at the front desk and joined a small group heading to the elevator. I took out the report and skimmed through it. At the first stop, I got off and walked down the stairs back to the lobby. After a short wait, Julio arrived at the counter. "Julio, we met yesterday. I'm Colin." "Yes, sir. I remember you. Did you receive your room activity report?" I held it up. It indicated that my room door had been opened 3 times the previous night. For today, it showed times as follows: 6:42, 7:29, 8:20, 8:45, 12:10, 12:12, 2:10, and 2:10 again. "Julio, could we review the security footage for some of these times?" "Of course, Colin. Come with me, and we can check them out." We had gone out for breakfast this morning, so the first 2 times must have been related to that. I left for golf shortly after 8, which explains that entry. I would guess the 8:45 entry was Sabrina leaving for shopping. Let's start with the 8:45 entry. The footage confirmed that Sabrina was wearing a blouse and slacks when she left. Can I view the footage for around noon? Certainly, sir. We saw Sabrina dropping off packages at the front desk. She entered our room at 12:10, carrying another package but left 2 minutes later without it, just holding her room key. That's my wife. What about the 2 o'clock footage? Of course, sir. Sabrina was wearing just a long men's t-shirt with a 10K race logo on it, reaching mid-thigh. She had a small bag and was carrying her shoes with her, legs and bare feet looking quite attractive. Hold on, can we rewind and see where she came from? He enjoyed using his security system. He rewound about 5 minutes and viewed 2 screens, each displaying 16 angles simultaneously, including various floors, the lobby, and the exterior. We discovered that Sabrina had left room 305 before returning to our room. Her expression was vacant, almost devoid of emotion. Can we go back to around noon and review the footage? A tall man entered room 305 shortly after noon. Due to his height, I thought he might be the husband of one of the other bridesmaids. At about 12:14, Sabrina opened the door to room 305 and let herself in. "Are you all right, sir? Would you like some water, coffee, or something stronger?" "No, but thanks for asking." "One more thing. Can we revisit the 2 o'clock footage?" We watched as Sabrina entered our room in the t-shirt. A minute later, she came out wearing a robe and carrying a small sack. We saw her dispose of the sack in the trash by the elevator before returning to our room. "I'm sorry, sir. Do you want me to print out the photos of her entering and leaving the room?" I handed him a $20 bill. "Yes, I'll pick them up later tonight. Please keep this meeting a secret." "I give you my word, sir." I looked through the list of wedding guests. Room 305 was assigned to Dennis and Mary Lou Denton, with Mary Lou as the bridesmaid. On the way to the room, I rummaged in the trash and took out the package that Sabrina had thrown away. There was a t-shirt in it that she was wearing. I put it in my jacket and went to our room. "Hi, honey, we have time to have some fun before the rehearsal?" Sabrina opened her robe. "As cool as it sounds, baby. My stomach is bothering me. I'm going to take a shower and try to calm down a bit." "Oh, it's sad. I hope you feel better tonight." I had no intention of dealing with leftovers when I was sitting in the shower. I realized that I might never have another chance with her. I couldn't think of an explanation that wouldn't lead to a divorce. Obviously, my growing frustration has affected my behavior. While we were preparing for the rehearsal, Sabrina remarked, "Someone is in a bad mood. Maybe I can cheer you up tonight." "I doubt it," she replied, looking puzzled but deciding not to press the issue. While the bridal party was busy rehearsing for the wedding tomorrow, I was chatting with the spouses to learn more about the Dentons. The only thing I discovered was that both had attended high school with Sabrina. It turned out that most of the bridal party and several of their spouses had also gone to that same high school. Sabrina and I seemed to be in the minority, having met after high school. The guy I had seen Sabrina dancing with avoided me like the plague. His wife was part of the bridal party. After dinner, the DJ began playing music. "Are you going to dance tonight, hun?" I asked. "No, neither of us is dancing tonight," she replied. "But I want to dance." "Sorry, babe. I told you no slow dances last night, and you completely ignored me. No dancing tonight." Sabrina left our table in a huff. She mingled, and I noticed she was avoiding Dennis. I didn't see her doing anything inappropriate with anyone. She was constantly checking to see if I was watching. After avoiding me for 2 hours, she finally returned to our table. "Some of us are heading to the hot tub. Want to come?" she asked. "We're not going. We're done for the night. Get your stuff and let's go." "What's wrong with you?" I said. "I'm going to the hot tub." "Pack your damn things and let's get out of here," I insisted. She saw something in my eyes she had never seen before, which startled her. We became the center of attention, and the area around our table fell silent. Sabrina grabbed her purse and shrugged, then followed me towards the elevators. When we got back to the room, she angrily demanded, "What's your problem? What's gotten into you?" "It's not about what's gotten into me," I replied. "I'm just wondering how many times you've served me leftovers. If I were you, I'd lock myself in the bedroom or risk falling off the balcony." "Oh God, no. How did you let me explain?" I opened the sliding glass door to the balcony and looked back at Sabrina. "Shut up, damn it." I started toward her, but she hurried into the bedroom and slammed the door behind her. From the other side, I heard her pleading, "Colin, please, can we talk? You can put on a show during the wedding, but we're done." "Don't say that," I said. "I love you." I slammed my hand against the bedroom door and said, "Shut up. You're a girl of easy virtue. We're done." Sabrina was crying. I left the room quietly, went downstairs to the lobby, and picked up the envelope Julio had left for me. There was a self-service copy machine in the business center, so I made 2 copies of each photo. I watched TV until 2 a.m., and Sabrina's crying continued until midnight. Saturday morning was incredibly tense every time she tried to speak. I made it clear that she should be quiet. I kept Sabrina in sight whenever we were out of the room. Around noon, she began preparing for the wedding. After spending some time with the bridal party, many of the ladies tried to cheer Sabrina up while they went through their pre-wedding activities. I stayed hidden in the lounge. A few of the spouses had casually checked in to see if everything was okay, and I suspected Sanina was behind it. During this time, I changed my return flight to the Reed, leaving for DFW at midnight. Once the wedding was finished and the reception had moved on to the cake and dancing, Sabrina finally spoke up. "Are we dancing tonight?" she asked. "Feel free to, but if I see any of that nonsense I witnessed Thursday night, your room key might not work." "That's fine," I replied. "I only want to dance with you." We didn't dance. It was clear she wanted to talk, but I knew it would lead to yelling and shouting, so I avoided it. After the wedding ceremony, every time I got Sabrina a drink, I slipped a sleeping pill into it. She stayed awake until the bride and groom said their goodbyes to the crowd. "I'm not feeling well. Can we go back to the room?" she asked. Once Sabrina was asleep, I packed up. I took her passport, driver's license, credit card, and the trial folder. I left a set of pictures in her suitcase with a note that read, "I've already left for home." I prepared a package from Mary L. Denton, which included the set of pictures and the shirt Sabrina had discarded. The note with the package said, "Mary Lou, this is the shirt my soon-to-be ex-wife Sabrina wore when she left your room on Friday." The pictures showed Dennis and her together for about 2 hours. Colin, as I waited for my cab to the airport, I noticed the Dentons were still celebrating. "Mary Lou, here's a package and a note for you," I said. "Dennis, I hope your divorce is the most painful one imaginable. You'll be looking over your shoulder for a long time. You may not know when, but you haven't seen the last of me." I saw fear in Dennis's eyes, but I didn't want to get involved with the police. As the cab driver loaded my bag, I saw resort security heading toward the reception room. As we drove away, I saw a bloody Dennis being escorted by security, clutching a towel to his forehead. I was drained but managed to get back to my house by 7 a.m. Sabrina would be waking up soon. I had managed a few short naps on the flights to and from DFW, so I wasted no time getting the coffee started. With minimal food in the fridge, I began snacking on cookies and energy bars. My phone buzzed with a text. "Where are you? We need to leave for the airport in an hour. Why didn't you wake me?" A smile crept across my face. I figured it would be less than 10 minutes before she would be completely panicked. My prediction was accurate. My phone rang, but I let it go to voicemail and listened to the message. "Colin, I'm sorry. We can get through this. You can have a hall pass, even 10 hall passes. Please just talk to me." I replied with a text. "I'm already home. Your passport, driver's license, credit card, and trial folder are on the kitchen table. I won't be here when you get back." I counted backward from 20, but my phone rang again before I reached 0. I let it go to voicemail once more. The anger was palpable in her message. "You bastard. I'm stranded here. I have to be in court in the morning." Unable to resist, I sent a reply. "Too bad you weren't part of my plan." "Oh wait, of course you can. Friday at noon was your afternoon delight. Well planned." I scanned the set of photos into my computer, added annotations like "her husband's room" and "not her husband's room," and sent them to Sabrina with a BCC to everyone in the bridal party, as well as Sabrina's parents. The message Sabrina sent about an hour after her outburst nearly made me feel sorry for her, though I said, nearly. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. I can't get help with my passport until tomorrow. Oh my God. She's going to fire me. Please help me do something." I did do something. I deleted the message. It was too pathetic to listen to. I replied with a text. "If you want, I can deliver the trial folder and a set of pictures to Mrs. Simpson." I had considered that I shouldn't have that folder in my possession. I thought this might be my way out of trouble. Sabrina's response was that of a broken person. "Yes, please get them to her. Thank you. I never meant to hurt you. Can we at least talk?" The only thing I was sure of was how to spell divorce. Until now, I hadn't really thought about the process of a divorce. The thought that Sabrina might lose her job and I could end up paying alimony concerned me. I decided to withhold the pictures from Mrs. Simpson after confirming her address. I drove over to Mrs. Simpson's. "Sorry to bother you on a Sunday. Sabrina and I were in Mexico. I'm back now, but Sabrina had some issues with her passport. She asked me to get this to you. Have a nice day." A few hours later, I received another text. She suspended me without pay for a month. She didn't say a word about the pictures. I quickly replied, "You've lost your husband, wrecked your career, and alienated your friends and family, all for a brief fling. What a disgrace. I had no idea what you meant when you said you were going to let loose. I guess you really did. I kept the pictures just in case our divorce gets contentious. Please, Colin, no divorce. I don't want to lose you. When can we talk?" Even just texting her was fueling my anger. It's easy to declare love after you've made such a mess of things. I'm turning my phone off. If you can get here in 15 minutes, I'll hear you out. True to my word, I turned off my phone. I had initially taken Monday off, so I delayed packing and enjoyed one last night in my own bed at sunrise. I listened to a few more voicemails from Sabrina, which seemed straight out of the cheater's playbook. I decided to look for temporary accommodation through bed and breakfasts. I found one close to work for about $350 per week, including fees. There was an 18-day slot available starting today, so I went to check it out. It was perfect, and the property representative, Denise, though a bit reserved, encouraged me to book it. The house featured a hot tub on the back porch and included garage parking. I returned within an hour with everything I needed for the stay. I located a storage facility and made several trips home to collect my belongings, ensuring that I destroyed any photos of myself. It takes a unique kind of person to rent out their house to strangers. Denise and I chatted on Monday night. She runs a business bus from home and will turn 50 in a couple of months. Her husband, Roger, passed away in a car accident a few years ago. She has 2 daughters. One lives 1,000 miles away, is married, and has no children, while the other, Carrie, lives nearby, is divorced, and has a 3-year-old daughter. On Tuesday morning, I woke up to the aroma of bacon, a nice breakfast prepared by Denise. I took a long lunch to meet with the divorce attorney. He promised to file the paperwork promptly and serve Sabrina by Thursday if she's back in town. In typical controlling husband fashion, I began juggling finances. Sabrina made it home Tuesday afternoon and was relentless with her voicemails and text messages. I listened to them and responded with a text. You wanted to talk. Can you meet for drinks Thursday night? Yes. Where are you staying? As far away from you as possible. That silenced her. The housing agreement covered breakfast, but Denise seemed pleased when I also agreed to have dinner with her. Whether she realized it or not, she had become my counselor. I didn't expect her to have any answers, but I needed to express my feelings openly to have any chance of moving on. Just having someone to listen and ask probing questions was very therapeutic. On Wednesday night, we were joined by her neighbor, Kathleen, a devout churchgoer with strong opinions. I glanced at Denise a few times, but she just shrugged and smiled. After Kathleen left, I remarked, that was definitely an unusual experience. She's feeling quite isolated. Her husband is stationed abroad, home for just 2 weeks, then away for 10. I hope it wasn't too hard for her. Not at all, she replied. She's almost amusing to listen to. She seems to have some significant issues with reality. Yes, she does. Thank you for putting up with it. Would you like some peach pie? Carrie made it. I'd love a piece. I also found out more about Denise's family. Carrie had gone through a difficult divorce, and Denise's granddaughter, Celeste, seems to have Denise completely under her control. Thursday night, my stomach was in turmoil by the time I reached the table where Sabrina was seated. Hi, Colin. How are you? I'm just great, I replied. And you? Devastated. I was served earlier today. Couldn't you wait until we talked? What's there to discuss? I don't need to understand your reasons. For all I know, you might have been doing this throughout our entire marriage. Do you think handing me hall passes will fix things? Not a chance. I never wanted a promiscuous wife, and I'm certainly not interested in having a supposedly reformed promiscuous wife. It became clear in Cancun that you only care about yourself. Rules and vows mean nothing to you. So what exactly is there to talk about? Colin, I wasn't sure I could express what I needed to, so I wrote you a letter. Even if we end up getting divorced, I promise I will do everything I can to win your heart back. I took the letter from her trembling hand. While another man might have softened, I wasn't raised that way. I stuffed the letter into my pocket. If you have any issues with the terms of the divorce, have your attorney contact mine. Colin, please. What will it take for us to get through this? A time machine. When you love or have loved someone, it's heart-wrenching to see them in pain. I wasn't taking her back, but this was hard. Every please was met with a firm shake of my head. Denise was waiting when I pulled in after 10. Want to talk? Number, wait, yes, I don't know. This hurts. The first question you need to answer honestly is this. Are you better off with her or without her? Denise offered a hug, which I gratefully accepted. Thank you. I'll think about it. My stomach was in knots. I went to bed but didn't fall asleep until well after midnight. On Friday afternoon, I left the office early to watch my alma mater's game in the NCAA first round. We were comfortably ahead at halftime. I had been enjoying the company of Celeste, a bright 3-year-old with a mischievous glint in her eye. A woman in a chic outfit walked in through the front door without knocking. She was attractive, though her physical features were fairly average. "You look great in that outfit. You must be Carrie?" "Yes, I am. And you must be Colin?" "That's right. Your daughter is adorable and quite the little flirt. She is very outgoing. Mom mentioned you're staying for 2 more weeks." "Not quite 2 weeks. She has another engagement. I've enjoyed this so much that I've booked 5 more weeks after her next guests." "What are you watching? The basketball tournament?" "Feel free to sit down. The second half is about to begin." "No, thanks. I'm not really into watching men play sports. I'd prefer to go to a show or a play." "Would you like 2 tickets to a musical at the Performing Arts Theater? They're for tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Are you not using them due to recent changes?" "I don't have a date. If you can use them, great. Otherwise, they'll go to waste." I found the folder with the printed tickets and gave them to Carrie. She examined them briefly before heading off to find her mom. "Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you." "You're very welcome. It's just a small token of appreciation for how well your mom has treated me." Carrie and Denise spent the next hour chatting quietly in the kitchen. Carrie appeared in the doorway and said, "Colin, if you're free tomorrow night, would you like to go to a musical? It wouldn't be a date, just 2 people sitting next to each other and enjoying the show." I didn't need a second invitation. I already knew how to make Sabrina jealous. "Only if that stranger is you. Do you think this stranger would like to have dinner before the show?" "I'll be there at 5. Mom will be watching." Celeste asked, "Would it be a problem if I ordered a larger meal?" "Not at all. If you don't have another nice outfit, you can just wear that one. It looks great on you." I replied, "I'm not concerned about myself. I hope you clean up nicely." Now, I understood where Celeste got that mischievous gleam in her eye. Carrie gathered Celeste, and we said our farewells. It was nice to talk about something other than my job or personal issues, even though it wasn't meant to be a date. I was definitely feeling a bit nervous about Saturday. I had my chance to take a jab around noon when I got a text from Sabrina. My calendar reminded me about our musical tonight. "Are we still going?" "I'm going with someone else." "Am I that easy to forget?" "It's impressive. That's exactly what I thought in Cancun." "I'm sorry, Colin. Did you read my letter?" "Not yet. Honestly, I had forgotten about the letter. My first thought was that her lawyer had probably put a spin on things. I glanced at the envelope but decided it was still too early to put myself through that." Carrie arrived around 4 o'clock. Denise, Carrie, and I sat around the kitchen table, making small talk. Carrie was just as nervous as I was as 5 o'clock approached. Carrie told Celeste, "Behave for Grandma, I love you," after which she received a big hug from Celeste. We then headed out to the same restaurant Sabrina and I used to visit. The conversation mostly revolved around work. Carrie, a structural engineer, had yet to pass the professional engineer exam. "I'm envious," I said. "I've taken the test twice and still haven't passed." "Well, I was determined to pass it," she replied. "I was a full-time student until I did." "I bet you were working," I said. "I was," she confirmed. "It's clear now that you really need to focus exclusively to pass it." "Did your divorce affect your attempts to pass the test?" I asked. "Definitely," she said. "It was a bitter custody battle, and it's still ongoing. I constantly worry that he might take Celeste and disappear. He didn't want a divorce and thought his affair was insignificant, believing we should stay together for Celeste. I wasn't having any of it. The courts generally favor the mother." "Mom says your troubles started a week ago," she mentioned. "Well, without knowing the full context of her betrayal, let's just say I realized I had a problem a week ago," I responded. "Just being honest, it took me 6 long months to get past the rage, hatred, self-pity, and depression. We might run into each other over the next 6 months," she continued, "but I'm not going to put myself in a vulnerable position until you've had time to work through your emotional issues." "Fair enough," I agreed. "As your invitation mentioned, this is just 2 strangers grabbing a meal and then sitting nervously next to each other at the theater." She chuckled. "I am nervous. Why is that?" "You're just being considerate," I said. "You knew I'd be nervous and didn't want me to feel alone." We switched topics and enjoyed the meal. After the musical, I offered to take her out for a drink, but she declined. When we returned to Denise's house, Carrie asked, "Would you like an Irish coffee?" "That sounds great," I replied. We spent another hour discussing engineering projects in the news. When she got up to leave, we both stood there, unsure how to end the evening. "I had a good time," I said. "Me too," she responded. It felt a bit awkward, but it worked for both of us. I heard Denise's bedroom door close and suspected she had been eavesdropping on Sunday. I bought a thank you card and addressed it to Carrie. I left it with Denise to give to Carrie when she dropped Celeste off on Monday. My alma mater made it to the Sweet 16. I adjusted my schedule to come in early, so I could be home before Carrie arrived to pick up Celeste. I'll admit it, I had a crush on both her and Celeste. The next 2 weeks didn't exactly fly by, but work was busy, and following my attorney's instructions kept me occupied. I had dinner with Denise 3 or 4 times a week. She's quite an interesting person. I had to vacate the place for 3 days because Denise had rented it out before my stay. "I know you've booked for 5 more weeks, but I have a proposal. I can rent the room to you for $11,000 per month if that works for you. I can cancel your upcoming 5-week stay without affecting your customer rating. Do you need some time to think about it?" "Probably. I wouldn't want to make a hasty decision." "All right, I've thought about it. I'd love to rent the room from you. Keep your key. I'll see you Monday. If there are things you'd prefer not to move, you can store them in the garage." I blew her a kiss. "Thank you, Denise. I'll bring cash over the weekend." I realized my next musical was the following Saturday. I printed the tickets and put them in an envelope addressed to Carrie. After moving back in on Monday, I left the tickets for Carrie to pick up when she dropped off Celeste on Tuesday. "Carrie, I still don't have someone to look after me. Take your current squeeze and enjoy yourselves." Colin. After unpacking on Monday, I joined Denise for coffee and peach pie. I allowed her that pie was delicious. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Carrie made it. "Well, please thank her for me. She's having dinner here tomorrow night. Why don't you plan on thanking her yourself?" It seemed like Denise had turned into my social coordinator and had set up a sort of non with Carrie. "I can do that Tuesday morning." I received a message from Sabrina. Mrs. Simpson suggested I find another law firm to start my practice at. She found out about our divorce and might have spoken with someone from the wedding. I had anticipated something like this, so I'll be starting at Adams and Maven on Monday. Good luck. "Are we still going to the musical on Saturday?" I gave the tickets away. "Have you read my letter?" Number whether you tried to spin it as premeditated or spontaneous, the fact remains, Colin doesn't mean that much to me. You mean everything to me. I wish I could find a way to show you how truly sorry I am. I wasn't in the mood for dinner with Denise and Carrie, but I put on a brave face. Denise had caught me off guard by bringing Celeste to a movie, so it was just Carrie and me. We made small talk during dinner, then moved to the living room and sat in the recliners. "Colin, you seem a bit distracted tonight. Is everything okay?" I texted her today. "As you mentioned, it takes time to manage the anger that can flare up unexpectedly. Things started to improve about an hour ago. I'm feeling better now." "Colin, would you like to join me for the musical on Saturday?" "It's my turn to pay for dinner," Carrie said. "Is it all right if I wear flip-flops and ripped jeans?" "I'll leave that up to you," she said with that familiar mischievous glint in her eye. On Saturday, I dressed in my best suit. We felt much more at ease with each other this time, with no signs of nervousness. After enjoying drinks at Denise's house post-show, we found ourselves uncertain about how to end the evening. That was a repeat of our first encounter. "Colin, come closer. I don't want my mom to overhear this," she said. I moved closer and took her hand. "I really enjoy your company," she whispered before kissing me on the cheek. She attempted to retract her hand, but I lifted it to my lips and kissed the back of her hand, exclaiming, "I really enjoy your company too." We both burst into laughter. I released her hand, but she stepped back toward me, and we shared a gentle hug. I had a wonderful time. Me too. The next day, I bought another thank you card and left it for Carrie. Kathleen was with Denise when I got home from work on Friday afternoon. Kathleen gave me a few blessings, but I still wasn't going to attend her Sunday services. I'm always relieved when she leaves the house. Dinner with Denise seemed unusual to me. She seemed a little worried. After we had dinner with her more than a dozen times, it became quite obvious. "What's bothering you, Denise?" I asked. I don't want to pry into other people's business, but curiosity gets the better of me. How do you deal with your, you know, desires? Well, Denise, if you really want to know, I'd leave the front door unlocked, and Kathleen would sneak in and take full advantage of me. This woman is a miracle. I'm surprised we didn't wake you up with our screams, I said. Denise burst into uncontrollable laughter. You're terrible. Oh my God, this is so funny, she said, between gasps. And she says she's got her eye on you. She thinks you have everything you need, and she says you'll be her favorite. I started fooling around. Tears were streaming down Denise's face. She was laughing so hard that she started coughing. Stop it. You're being naughty. The idea that she could have such urges was ridiculous. Before I answer your question, who wants to know? Does it really matter? Probably not, but I'm curious too. Are you asking about yourself because you're starting to think you might be a cougar? Maybe the thought of being with a guy who looks normal, but who doesn't have everything right with his personal life makes your hormones stir. Or maybe you're looking for someone close to you. On the other hand, maybe Kathleen is too shy to offer a friendship agreement to benefit herself. She asked you to raise this issue through her laughter. She said, well, it's not for Kathleen. Let me ask you this. Roger passed away a few years ago. How are you dealing with your desires? That's different. We were in love and raised two wonderful daughters together. The idea of being with someone else doesn't appeal to me. Maybe that will change in the future, but it hasn't so far. It's not so different. I was in love, and just like a sudden car crash, it ended. Unlike you, though, I have mixed feelings. I love her, but I hate her even more. She shattered the trust needed to be together. I will never take her back. Unfortunately, the thought of being with someone else doesn't appeal to me either. That might change eventually, but it hasn't yet. Denise stood up and approached me, wrapping her arms around me and resting her head next to mine. After a few moments of silence, she kissed me on the cheek. I guess that means you were looking out for someone close to you. She's worried that you'll find someone to meet your needs before she gathers the courage to start a relationship. She doesn't want to miss her chance. She's still struggling with her divorce. I handed my phone to Denise and said, dial her number. After handing my phone back, I heard the ring and said, hello, Carrie, this is Colin. If you're free tomorrow, would you and Celeste join me for a picnic? I'd love your company as my date. If you can find a good babysitter on such short notice, we could even continue into the evening. Denise playfully slapped the back of my head. Colin, I'd like that. What time should we meet? I'll drive over to my mom's house. How about noon? That works. See you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Denise gave me another hug and kiss as her cell phone rang with car's ringtone. I'll leave you two alone. Good night. Denise, good night. Colin, don't forget to leave the door open for Kathleen. We do make sure to leave your door open for her too. She threw the book she had been reading across the room at me and said, stop it. Carrie and Celeste arrived around noon. Since I didn't have the right car seat for Celeste, I put the picnic gear in the car's trunk, and she drove. You can drive, I offered. I don't mind driving. The medication has me feeling pretty relaxed. She tapped the brakes, and I reached for the dashboard. Looks like the medication isn't quite doing the trick, we both laughed. I really enjoyed playing with Celeste at the playground. If it was a test, I think I aced it. Carrie and I shared a few gentle kisses and hugs that evening after Celeste told Grandma how much fun she had. Carrie and I went out on a proper date. We had dinner and then went to a nightclub. Although several men invited her to dance, she refused them all. We danced a few times, but it's not my type. Instead, we spent time imagining how all the couples met on the dance floor. Carrie has a very vivid imagination, and it turned out to be a fun way to pass the time. When the evening was over, I helped Celeste into the car after putting her in the car seat. Carrie turned to me, Colin, I had a wonderful time today. Can I hug and kiss you properly this time? I didn't have to be asked twice. I was a little embarrassed when her kiss turned the arrow 90 degrees almost immediately, if you know what I mean. Calm down, you'd better go inside and get ready to meet Kathleen now. I was really confused. Obviously, Denise was aware of our conversations. That's a good idea. I can't tell you how much I needed a day like this. See you on Monday. Good night, Carrie. Her eyes sparkled as she replied, I needed it too, Colin. Good night. As I turned to leave, I noticed Denise watching me from the living room window. She quickly disappeared. Kathleen never showed up, and I spent the whole night awake. The following Friday, I joined Kathleen for dinner at Denise's house. While Kathleen had her back to the refrigerator, I filled my glass with ice. At the same time, I grabbed my chest with one hand and licked the back of my other hand, mouthing, "I can leave you two alone." Denise loudly said, "Colin, please sit and join us." Kathleen was completely unaware and started her mission to convert me. As I may have mentioned before, it's always a pleasure to watch her. "Leave the house pretty proud of yourself, huh?" Denise remarked, giving me a quick kiss on the lips followed by a long hug. "She has a great figure, though. You'd never guess it with the loose top she wears." "Thanks for everything, Carrie," mentioned Denise. "You're taking her to a movie tomorrow, yeah? At the Megaplex. I'll let her choose." "I hope Kathleen realizes you're dating again," Carrie added. "Me too. With her connections, I might end up burning in hell." Sabrina was persistent in being sweet and caring. She sent me texts every day and called occasionally, despite my efforts to make it clear that the divorce was inevitable. She kept hoping I'd forgive her. I started to realize that her messages and calls no longer made me angry. I think I'm moving on from her. Denise held a small gathering for her 50th birthday, took place on a Sunday afternoon. I had brought a few gifts, labeling one with Kathleen's name and the others with mine. I made sure to slip Kathleen's gift into the pile after she had left. Carrie and I were sitting on the couch when Denise began opening her presents, thanking each person as she unwrapped them. When she got to the gift I marked as being from Kathleen, she let out a gasp, ran from the room with the box, and disappeared into her bedroom for a moment. When she returned, she laughed and pointed at me. "Colin, you're awful. I'll get you for this." Carrie noticed the mischievous grin on my face and demanded, "Tell me what you did. It's an inside joke." I replied, "She'll explain it better." What I had actually bought was a collar from an adult store that read "My bitch." Denise eventually came back, her face flushed red. She had to work hard to divert the curiosity of the other guests, which only made her blush even more. Now her friends probably thought she was a cougar, and I was her younger lover. I couldn't help but enjoy it. Only Dennis, Carrie, and I were left in the crowd. Carrie was very curious. "Tell me what was in the package," she said. "You don't want to know that." "Nope." "Tell me," she persisted. "Okay, do I?" And she told me everything. Both ladies giggled. "Denise, that's what you wanted to know. Two people can play this game. What do you do with your desires?" Carrie turned pale. "Oh my God, I just wanted to—" "Oh my God, it's hard. Why did you say that?" "Oh no, you can't back off now. Let's hear it. What do you do with your desires?" "You know what Colin does with his own," I said. "I use toys. Are you happy now?" I moved closer to Carrie and hugged her tightly to me. Carrie pulled my head down to her, giving me a delicious kiss. "I'll get a room," Denise chirped after tidying up from the party. Carrie and Celeste prepared to leave. I walked them to the car. Once Celeste was secured in her car seat, Carrie turned to me, drawing me in for another kiss. "Would you be interested in another movie night next weekend?" "I'd really like that," she said. Our movie nights had become dates. We held hands, cuddled, and behaved like a couple. I found myself eagerly anticipating these little outings. The divorce hearing was set for Thursday, and on Tuesday, I ended up staying late at work. So it was around 6 when I finally got home. Both Carrie and Sabrina's cars were there when I arrived. All I needed to complete this scenario was for Kathleen to show up too. "Sabrina, what a surprise." Carrie spoke up. "Hi, honey, how was work today?" She walked up to me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and tilted her head up. I hugged her back, looked into her eyes, and kissed her pretty good. "How was your day? Still working on the Evergreen project?" Mom took Celeste out for some ice cream. "Sabrina and I have just been chatting." Sabrina looked confused and upset as she asked, "Can we talk privately?" "There's no need. You can say whatever you need to say in front of Carrie. She's been through a divorce, so there's nothing she hasn't heard before." I leaned down, and Carrie kissed me this time, slipping her tongue into my mouth. I responded, caressing the side of her breast. "Colin, I don't want a divorce. There has to be a way you can forgive me." What do I need to do? Sabrina replied, I've been clear for the last 3 months. We are not getting back together. But I want you, Carrie, she stepped in. There are easily hundreds of women in this city who want someone like Colin. He could be happy with any of them, but he can't be happy with you, because he can't trust you. You say you love him, but how can you torture him by making him doubt what you're really doing? Every time you're apart for the next 50 years, he'd always be wondering, and that's no way to live. I want nothing to do with my ex for the same reasons. Sabrina's face twisted into a sneer as she said, So, you need someone else to speak for you now? You never listen to me, but everything she's saying is the truth. I loved you more than words can express, but that wasn't enough for you. I refuse to live with constant anxiety, not knowing what you're up to. Sabrina headed for the door, and as she stood on the front porch, she said, I love you, Colin. I love you too, Sabrina. I hope everything works out for you. One last thing. Here, take this. She handed Sabrina the unopened letter she had written to him. I never opened it. I destroyed our marriage, and nothing she could say would ever change that. Okay, let me explain what it says. I admit that I agreed to meet Dennis for the sake of intimacy. We had a pretty strained relationship in high school. When I entered his room, a feeling of guilt gripped me even before anything happened. Dennis was upset, and, after a while, began to show aggression. She sighed, Well, what happened next is terrible. Bravo, bravo. This is exactly the outlandish story I was expecting to hear. You did what you planned and turned yourself into a victim. If that's true, I'm sorry for you, but you might as well stay away. She paused, or refuse over the phone, but you didn't. And everything else, like our story, went on as usual. Colin, I understand why you might doubt me, but it's the truth. And to reassure you, that was the only time I ever disrespected you and our marriage. You're right. I have to question everything about our relationship. It seems like you were so close to sparing us all this pain, but you didn't. It's time for you to go. Sabrina just stood there staring. Carrie stepped away and closed the front door. I think she's being honest. Maybe a better man could forgive her. I think you've treated her with respect. She's the one who created these problems. I know. How long did you say these conflicting emotions lasted? I'll let you know when mine finally disappear. By the way, did I mention that you can touch me? I was just acting. Did I say you could kiss me like that? I was just acting too. Don't start something you can't finish. I went to Carrie. She raised both hands to stop me. I grabbed her wrists and lifted her arms above her head. I pushed her back against the door and kissed her. We engaged in intimacy. I walked Carrie to her car, and we agreed that I would come by in a few hours when Celeste was asleep. She mentioned that I should plan to stay for a couple of hours, which definitely got me excited. Once inside, I explained to Denise, I have a project meeting tonight, so I won't be back until midnight. You might want to lock the door so Kathleen can't get in. If she can't find me, she can go look for you. Giggling, she said, You're bad. How do you feel about Sabrina right now? She asked. It's over with her. Tonight was exactly what I needed to move on. I'm glad to hear that, Colin. You know, Carrie wasn't pretending. She was just hoping. I made dinner early today. It will take about 10 minutes to warm everything up. I arrived at Carrie's house shortly before 9 in the evening when I arrived at Carrie's house. She was still wearing the same blouse and trousers she had on earlier. As soon as the door closed, we resumed what we had started earlier. Since we both had to work the next morning, I quickly got dressed. Colin, I don't know what this will mean for us, she said, but I really needed it. Carrie nodded in agreement. I needed that too. You were exactly what I needed. I promised to call her the next day to tell her that I still cared about her. You better do it, she said, and I did, both at lunch and after dinner on Thursday. After learning that the divorce was finalized, I texted Carrie, Do you want to come over tonight and celebrate? See you at 9. Later that day, I received a message from Sabrina. Can I take you out to dinner and go to the movies? She asked. I responded, Sabrina, you need to find someone else to love. I hope you go to a psychologist to deal with your self-destructive behavior. I will always take care of you, but I can't live with you. I thanked her for the offer, but told her no. Please move on, I added. That evening, when Carrie opened the door, she was wearing a nightgown. This was a clear sign that we made love that night, with no promises or expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company and intimacy. Carrie talked about the breakup of her marriage. Her husband, David, was an intern who seemed to be crazy about the woman from the diner. It turned out that he had forgotten to mention that he was married. Carrie was about to have lunch with David when his new acquaintance burst into his office and canceled their plans. Chaos ensued when the woman revealed that she and David had had an intimate relationship several times. "Colin, I have to warn you that in my opinion, David may be mentally unstable. As soon as he finds out we're dating, he could potentially come after you," Carrie said. "Carrie, you're worth it. I'm willing to take the risk." I noted to myself that Carrie could be absolutely amazing in bed when she felt like she was being taken care of. Carrie and I continued dating for another 6 weeks before talking about exclusivity. The conversation was short. "She's been my only partner since Sabrina and I broke up, and I've been her only partner since her divorce." She knew how I felt about infidelity, and I shared my past with her at that time. I was still living in Denise's room because we weren't ready to live together. Kathleen still believed that I cared about her religion, and at work, we signed a contract under which I had to carry out several on-site inspections. This was the first test in my relationship with Carrie, even though I had no reason to doubt Carrie's loyalty. When I first called her at night and her phone switched to voicemail, I was worried. An hour later, I tried again but switched back to voicemail. My insecurities got the better of me. "I have some personal problems that I need to solve." She called back around 10 o'clock. "Hello, dear. I saw that you called several times." "That's what I did. I must have forgotten where you were." "Of course. Do you remember I mentioned that I'm taking the engineering exam today?" "Yes, I remember." "What time did it start?" "At 6. I understood from your questions that you were alarmed when I didn't answer." "I'm sorry. How did the test go?" "Much better. I have a great tutor." "When does your plane arrive?" Carrie met me at the airport. We had dinner, and I realized that I wasn't the only one facing problems. "Colin, maybe we're in too much of a hurry. I trust you, but I was very worried when you called only late at night." "Carrie, you're not alone. I felt the same way when you didn't answer that night. We are two people with vulnerable hearts. We will definitely have moments of uncertainty. One missed call is not enough to change my feelings for you. I know we haven't talked about it yet, but I love you." Through tears, she replied, "I love you too, Colin." After dinner, she said, "Celeste will stay the night with her mom. Would you like to stay one more night on the road?" The next day, I was useless at work. We didn't even quarrel, but the passion was so strong that it resembled a conciliatory intimacy after a fight. After a few hours, we fell asleep in each other's arms. I went to work after enjoying another unforgettable act of intimacy with Carrie. We took things slowly, and before we knew it, 6 months had passed. Carrie made a big deal out of it. I felt in my heart that I was over Sabrina, but like life has a way of reminding you not to take anything for granted. A few months later, I received an invitation to Sabrina's wedding. It was a Thursday night, and Carrie usually stayed for dinner at Denise's house. "Colin, you're not yourself tonight," Carrie observed. "I can't quite put my finger on it, but you seem off." "Carrie, you know me pretty well," I replied, handing her the invitation. She read it, and then passed it to Denise. "Ouch. Looks like you've had to face the reality that you've been replaced," Denise commented. It's what she felt when she saw us together that night. She came over, I guess, so it just brought up some feelings. I thought I had moved past them. "Flip it over and read the back," Denise suggested, reading it and then passing it back to Carrie. "Colin, I plan to be the most faithful, loving wife the world has ever known." Denise added with a laugh, "Well, she'll be second to me. Whoever ends up with me will have the most faithful, loving wife in the world." She paused and then asked, "Oh, and by the way, we're not going to her wedding. Got any prospects lined up?" I shook my head. "No, but I'm starting to get a bit impatient. I've got my eye on someone. He's in his early 30s, but still lives with his mom. He's got some unresolved mommy issues, huh? Maybe with a bit of your help, he could live a normal life." "Hang on a second." Denise and Carrie were giggling. I found Celeste watching TV and asked her to join us in the kitchen. "Celeste, I was thinking of asking your mom to spend more time with me. What do you think?" She replied, "Mommy smiles when she sees you." I glanced at Carrie, who shrugged. "Nana smiles when she sees you too," I continued. "She waits by the window and says, 'Colin's home.'" I looked at Denise, who also shrugged. Carrie stared at Denise, her smile fading. "Will we stay here more, Colin?" she asked. "Actually, I was thinking I'd be spending more time where you live," I said. Denise joined in, "Honey, I'll still see you as much as always. I know Colin and your mommy will make sure I'm not sad." She turned to Celeste. "Colin, will you read me bedtime stories anytime you want, sweetie?" I smiled at her. "Mommy, you're smiling again." "I think you like Colin," Celeste said. "I do, sweetie," I replied, fishing a box out of my pocket. I wasn't sure she'd even be interested in getting married again. Dropping to one knee, I opened the ring box. "Carrie, will you marry me?" Carrie pushed me over and landed on top of me, exclaiming, "Yes." After our brief display of affection, Denise remarked, "Get a room." Celeste jumped on the pile after enjoying some peach pie that Carrie made. We called it an evening. Denise watched Celeste that night, and Carrie and I spent several hours being intimate. On Friday afternoon, Carrie and I packed my things and loaded both cars. "I'm going to miss you, Denise," I said. "Thanks for letting me out of my lease." "I'm really going to miss your peach pie." Carrie playfully slapped the back of my head. "Keep being silly, and you might not get any more," she teased. After hugs and kisses, we drove to Carrie's house, and I settled into my new surroundings. I read 2 books to Celeste at bedtime. We both opted out of attending the party solo, not wanting to cause the other any concern. That's how it is when you're trying to find love again. Even though I wanted to send Sabrina an announcement, Carrie's wishes won out, and I managed to rise above the minor grievances. I declined any suggestions about having our honeymoon in Mexico. Celeste was absolutely charming as the flower girl, and Carrie looked stunning and radiant in her wedding dress. Her ex-husband, David, turned out to be quite pleasant when he's with Celeste on his weekends. I suppose our marriage ended up saving him some money. Denise started renting out her room again after I moved out. I still jokingly call her a cougar in training. She still flirts far more than you'd expect from a mother-in-law. Kathleen continues to join us for Friday night dinners at Denise's house. It's always a pleasure to see her leave the house with a smile. Celeste and I are the best of friends. I read her bedtime stories, and she shows me how her dollhouses work. Carrie and I waited 2 years before growing our family. Celeste now has a baby brother,